You know how in those escape room games, the whole thrill is that you are locked in, right?
Absolutely. The adrenaline.
Yeah. You have to solve these puzzles to get out, the clock is ticking, and the pressure feels incredibly real.
Right, but the panic is completely contained because deep down you know you bought a ticket.
Exactly. You walked in voluntarily. There's a person with a key waiting on the other side. But imagine if you didn't know you were in an escape room.
That changes the entire premise.
Right. What if the room was just, your life, your job, your marriage, your country?
And what if the ultimate goal of human existence isn't to just decorate that room or get comfortable in it? What if the goal is simply to realize you are inside a room and figure out how to pick the lock?
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are so thrilled you're joining us. Today we are stepping into a deeply fascinating, honestly quite provocative essay from 2006.
Yeah, it's a profound piece of writing.
It really is. It's by an author named Xu Feng, titled Escaping the Traps of Life, and it's part 54 of a larger collection called the Wisdom series. Our mission today is to look at the world entirely through the lens of this specific cosmic blueprint.
And to really grasp the gravity of this essay, we have to start with the architecture of the universe it presents.
Right, the cosmology.
Exactly. The author introduces a foundational cosmology stating that the universe contains 36 Bagua arrays.
And for anyone who isn't familiar with that term, a Bagua array comes from ancient Chinese philosophy. It's a system of 8 intersecting trigrams used to represent the fundamental principles of reality.
Yeah, but the author scales this up to an almost unimaginable level.
Oh, completely.
Imagine those principles manifesting as incredibly intricate, interlocking cosmic mazes, 36 layers of reality built entirely out of labyrinths.
Wow.
In this framework, human life is literally just the experience of wandering through these arrays, which are filled with countless hidden traps.
So it's a minefield.
Pretty much. The ultimate goal, really, the only metric of success that actually matters, is to navigate these formations, escape the traps, and achieve total freedom. Or, as the author calls it, paradise.
There is a detail in the text about paradise that I think completely shifts the traditional spiritual narrative.
About the directions.
Yeah. The author notes that Buddhism often focuses on the Western paradise, or the Western Pure Land. But this essay argues that paradise isn't confined to a single direction.
Right, it's everywhere.
Exactly. It exists in the east, the south, and the north as well. It's all around us. The issue isn't that paradise is hard to find on a map.
No, not at all.
The issue is that we are so thoroughly entangled in these 36 arrays that we can't take a single step toward it.
Because the geography of freedom is totally irrelevant if you don't even realize you're in a cage.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Right.
What exactly does the author consider a trap, and, why do we keep falling into them?
Well, before we can escape a trap, we have to recognize what it feels like to be inside one versus outside one. And that leads to the foundational premise of the essay,
Which is?
understanding the mechanics of suffering. According to this worldview, suffering isn't some random punishment. It is entirely tied to proximity.
The text uses a really stark historical example to illustrate this mechanical reality. Right?
Yeah, it brings up the 2004 South Asian tsunami where hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives.
It's a horrific tragedy.
Absolutely. The essay points out the obvious. The people caught in the water suffered immensely. It was absolute horror. But for those of us watching the news footage from a continent away, the experience was fundamentally different.
Because of the distance.
Right. We might have felt sympathy, but we didn't feel the physical drowning, the terror, the visceral pain. The author even goes a step further, suggesting that if we hadn't turned on the television and known about the tsunami at all, our day would have carried on without a single drop of sadness.
It's a really uncomfortable observation.
It is, yeah. But the author is pointing to the mechanical nature of human emotion and entanglement. We can look at a much smaller, everyday example the text provides to see how this works.
The fighting neighbors.
Exactly. Picture a married couple in the apartment next to yours. They are screaming, throwing plates, acting like the world is ending.
Right.
For them, in that exact moment, the apocalypse has arrived. They're entirely consumed by misery. But to you, listening through the drywall,
It's just noise.
Exactly. It's just noise. You might find it irritating because it's interrupting your evening, but you aren't emotionally devastated. Why? Because you aren't caught in the jaws of their specific trap.
It's like playing a terrifying virtual reality game versus watching someone else play it on a monitor.
That's a great analogy.
The person in the headset is screaming, their heart rate is spiking, the trap is real to them. The person watching is just, waiting for their turn.
Right, they are outside the array.
But I have to push back a little here. I mean, isn't it just basic human empathy to care about the tsunami or the neighbors? Is the author really saying we should just tune it out entirely?
I get why you'd ask that. It's a natural reaction to feel defensive about it. But the author isn't making a moral argument against empathy.
Okay.
The text is trying to show you the blueprint of how entanglement actually operates. If you aren't inside the cage, the iron bars cannot press against your skin. The author is dissecting this dynamic so you can learn to spot the boundaries of a trap before you walk into it.
Because the traps get bigger.
Oh, much bigger. Building on this idea of proximity, the text scales up from fighting neighbors to massive societal structures. The sweeping argument here is that the things we willingly sign up for are actually the most dangerous traps.
And this is where the text pivots from a philosophical observation into a really sweeping dissection of human society. And we should be clear with you listening, we are exploring the author's highly distinct worldview here.
Right, we are strictly impartial.
Exactly. We're just laying out the architecture of how this essay categorizes the pillars of our daily lives without taking sides.
And this categorization leaves almost no stone unturned. Let's walk through these societal cages. First, it targets the military. The text uses the example of U.S. soldiers being sent to Iraq.
Okay, what's the logic there?
It's brutal in its pragmatism. If you don't enlist, you aren't sent to a war zone. Therefore, the act of becoming a soldier is the moment you step into the trap of death and war.
Because you surrender your autonomy.
Exactly. Once you're in, you can't just walk away. Then the essay turns its sights on something far more universal, marriage and family.
Oh boy.
Yeah. In this cosmology, marriage isn't framed as a partnership. It's framed as an engine of endless chores that systematically robs you of your inner peace.
The text calls it a weird circle, right?
Yes, a weird circle. The argument is that staying unmarried avoids this endless loop of arguments, obligations, and the agonizing process of divorce.
And the critique extends deep into politics, too.
Oh, deeply. Cliques, factions, political parties. They're all massive traps. The moment you join a party, you are instantly bound by their rules.
Right.
You're dragged into their power struggles. You have to participate in their movements. And, perhaps worst of all, you might have to take the fall for their mistakes.
And religion is subjected to the exact same structural critique.
Yes, it is.
The essay views organized belief systems as these intellectual cages. It claims that being a believer means enduring repetitive moral sermons.
Or worse.
Yeah, in extreme cases, which the text points out directly, a believer might be manipulated into strapping a bomb to themselves for a sacred mission.
Which is the ultimate destruction of the self for the sake of the trap. And finally, the text scales up to the nation-state. It references the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah and Lebanon.
Right.
Watching that fight from afar is one thing, but being a citizen of those places, that means paying in blood and labor. Belonging to any country makes you a subject of its constraints.
It's staggering. The essay even argues that the planet Earth itself is a trap. It points to ecological anxiety. The author suggests that a utopia out in space, without nations, parties, or families, would be true freedom.
Unadulterated freedom.
But here's where it gets really interesting. This reveals a huge paradox. If marriage, religion, and our own countries are essentially these cages full of chores and peril, why on earth do billions of people willingly rush right into them every single day?
That is the million-dollar question, and the answer is that the cage isn't presented as a cage. It's carefully designed to lure us in.
Like bait.
Exactly. The text calls this concept the sweet taste, or tian tu in Chinese.
The sweet taste. So it's not forced imprisonment. It's like a fisherman using bait, or a hunter leaving food near a pit.
Precisely. Why do people marry, join political parties, or embrace nationalism for this fleeting sweetness, validation, belonging, the rush of being right?
That temporary reward blinds us to the iron bars.
Yes. The essay even pulls from mythology to show how intoxicating this bait is. It brings up the legend of the seven fairies.
Oh, I love this part.
Yeah, these divine beings literally descended from the heavenly realm to the messy human world just to get a taste of this earthly bait.
The sweet taste is strong enough to pull angels out of the sky.
And if we zoom out to the broader cosmology, the author introduces a fascinating twist involving Satan.
But not the
Yeah.
pitchfork-wielding Satan, right?
No, Satan has a highly specific cosmic job here. Satan has to dig these traps.
Wait, has to.
Yes, because if everyone instantly went to heaven, who would populate the earth? Who would be the humans and the animals? The universe needs balance.
So Satan is like the cosmic retention officer.
Exactly. Satan provides the sweet taste so the confused will stumble into the traps and keep the earthly realm populated.
And the design of these traps relies on what the text outlines as the trapdoor effect.
Yes, the fundamental physics of a trap. Incredibly easy to fall in, agonizingly hard to get out.
It's like a lobster trap.
Oh, that's a perfect visual.
The entrance is wide, it slopes inward, it smells delicious. But once you're full, you turn around and realize the exit doesn't exist. It's lined with sharp spikes.
The author compares it to getting married versus getting divorced, or walking up a mountain versus walking back down with exhausted legs.
Or opening a business versus trying to close a failing one.
Exactly. It's a one-way valve.
But, observing this brings up a profound critique. If the ultimate goal is to avoid these traps, to reject family, nation, worldly attachments, doesn't that make a person cold? Selfish? Heartless?
It sounds incredibly lonely, right?
Yeah, like you're just dodging connection to keep your hands clean while the world suffers.
Well, the author anticipates this exact critique. The essay asks rhetorically, I am too heartless, right? Too lacking in compassion.
And then flips it on the reader.
Completely flips it. The author points out that every day livestock is slaughtered, insects are crushed, people perish in hospitals and under car wheels. The world is an engine of constant suffering.
Right.
Yet, knowing all this, you still sit down, eat your dinner, laugh, and go about your day. Therefore, everyone is heartless to some degree. We already practice profound detachment to survive.
Wow. So the underlying philosophy isn't about promoting cruelty. It's about acknowledging your own limits.
Exactly. You cannot change history, death, or the evolution of the Dao, the fundamental way of the universe.
The examples the text gives are painfully practical. A poor person cannot financially help others. A prisoner securely locked in a cell cannot break another prisoner out of jail.
You must save yourself first.
So what does this all mean for you and me? It's exactly like the airplane safety video. You have to put on your own oxygen mask before assisting the person next to you.
Because if you're suffocating in the trap, you're useless to anyone else.
But wait, does the author say you can never go back and help?
Yes, there is one exception, the undercover exception.
Okay, what is that?
The text states you can go into the enemy's interior, like an angel coming down disguised as a normal person to save others.
But there's a catch, I assume.
A massive one. You can only do this if you are already thoroughly enlightened. The term is She Wu, a complete awakening. If you still have worldly desires, the trap will just eat you too.
Okay, so now that we understand we must save ourselves first, how do we practically execute this escape? Especially if we've already taken the bait.
Right, if you're already in the cage. The essay categorizes the escape routes into physical escapes and mental escapes.
Let's start with physical.
Physical is literal distance. Poor citizens fleeing to developed countries to escape their nation's constraints. Or wanted individuals fleeing to remote areas to escape prison.
The text quotes that proverb, right? The sky is high and the emperor is far away.
Exactly. Maximizing physical distance from earthly power.
But physical escape is rarely permanent. You still have your own mind.
Which is why the ultimate escape must be mental. The author shares a personal trick from their own dreams. Turning invisible.
I love this idea.
Yeah, when a situation in a dream gets dangerous, the author simply turns invisible, sometimes fading entirely into no self, or Wu, so that not even the gods can touch them.
It's a stunning metaphor for psychological distancing.
It is. If you are already physically in a trap, a marriage, a political party, your escape must begin in your consciousness.
So, how can our listener apply this invisibility tomorrow morning? Say they're dragged into a toxic meeting or a massive family argument erupts over politics.
You do it by keeping your spirit awake. You mentally step outside the bounds of the drama. You observe the family argument the exact same way you would watch a movie playing on a screen.
So you don't absorb the damage.
Exactly. You watch the characters clash, but you remain aware that you are in the theater seat. You are mentally free. It doesn't matter if your physical body is inside the country or the living room.
You refuse to let their apocalypse become your apocalypse.
Precisely. Once enlightened, you are mentally uncatchable.
That is incredibly powerful. Let's do a quick recap of this journey. We looked at recognizing the geography of suffering, spotting the sweet taste of societal traps, securing your own oxygen mask first, and practicing mental invisibility.
It's a complete toolkit for navigating the 36 arrays.
It really is. So I want to turn directly to you, listening, with one last thought to chew on. Take a look at the commitments, the groups, or even the arguments you're engaging in right now.
The things you defend every day.
Yeah. What is the sweet taste you're getting from them? Is it validation? Belonging? And ask yourself, is that sweetness actually just bait for a trap you haven't realized you're in yet?
A question you definitely want to ask before the door drops.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the world around you. Look out for the bait, and we'll catch you next time.